Star Trek has waited since the 60s for Strange New Worlds. Ortegas says DS9 stars Star Trek. Deep Space Nine's Nana Visitor hails Star Trek. Strange New Worlds LT. Erica Ortegas, Melissa Navia, a character Nana says Star Trek has waited for since the 1960s, releasing October 1st. Visitor's first book, Star Trek, Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek, contains in-depth profiles of Star Trek's vast universe of female characters. Nana interviewed women involved in Star Trek in front of and behind the camera, as well as real-world scientists, soldiers, and astronauts who call Star Trek's female heroes their inspirations. LT Erica Ortegas is a new character in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but one who has roots in Star Trek's original rejected pilot, The Cage. In 1964, John Roddenberry's first crack at Star Trek centered on the Starship Enterprise led by Captain Christopher Pike, Jeffrey Hunter, aided by Number 1, Majel Barrett Roddenberry, and Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy. NBC ordered a second pilot and for Star Trek to be recast. It took 58 years for Captain Pike's version of the Enterprise to return in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which boasts reimagined versions of The Cage's characters, including Erica Ortegas, the helmsman of the Starship Enterprise. Nana Visitor explains how Star Trek's original pilot concept became Strange New Worlds. Ortegas in an excerpt from Star Trek, Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek shared exclusively with Screen Rant. Nana Visitor describes how Gene Roddenberry's first concept for Star Trek's pilot, Jose Ortega, morphed into Jose Tyler, Peter Duria, and finally, decades later, into LT. Erica Ortegas in Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. Visitor also accurately charts why the Starship Enterprise's pilot had to be a man in the 1960s and how this has changed today. Read Visitor's quote below. Star Trek has been waiting since the 60s for Erica Ortegas. Jose Ortega never made it out of Joan Roddenberry's notes. By the time Trek's first pilot, The Cage, was filmed, he had morphed into Jose Tyler, who was very blonde and blue-eyed. In fact, the entire cast was scrapped save Leonard Nimoy for the next ultimately successful pilot, leaving it for the best part of 60 years and the casting of Melissa Navia to give the character new life. Strange New Worlds. Erica Ortegas. Yes, there's an S on the end, and yes, plenty of Latinos spell their name that way, says Melissa, has links to the past, but drives us straight into the future. 60 years ago, it seemed inevitable that the Enterprise's pilot would be a man. In those days, the characteristics of a hotshot pilot seemed fundamentally male, and the person flying the ship was bound to be inspired by John Glenn or Neil Armstrong. Discovery had already put Emily Kutz Detmer at the helm. Strange New Worlds would double down on that. The breakdown for her character described a Latinx pilot, a soldier who could handle a gun and crack a joke, was capable and confident. Her exuberant abso-frickin-lutely while flying the ship demonstrates that she isn't caught up in her head like Jose, worrying about instruments and calculations, but piloting from passion. The character is free from any kind of stereotypes about performative femininity or limiting ideas about what it means to be a woman, and that's something that Melissa seems to share. Nana Visitor interviewed Melissa Navia for Star Trek, Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek, and no doubt to LT. Erica Ortegas' chapter will prove fascinating and insightful. In 2024, female Star Trek pilots are now par for the course. Like Ortegas, Emily Kutz LT Commander Kayla Detmer flies the USS Discovery on Star Trek Discovery, and Ashley Sharp Chestnut plays Ensign Sidney LaForge, the USS Titan's pilot in Star Trek Picard Season 3. At the end of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Sidney joined Ortegas as a female pilot of the Enterprise, becoming a lieutenant and the helmsman of the USS Enterprise G. Star Trek fans have embraced Strange New Worlds. LT Ortegas LT. Erica Ortegas has proven to be a beloved fan favorite on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The Starship Enterprise's snarky hotshot pilot has endeared herself to audiences. Thanks to Melissa Navia's effervescence and Strange New World's clever writers and directors, Erica is hugely entertaining, whether she's bantering with Captain Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, on the bridge, or tormenting the time traveler Ensign Brad Boimler, Jack Quaid, in Star Trek Strange New Worlds crossover. Fans have clamored to learn more about Ortegas' past and what makes her tick, spreading the hashtag #Mortegas on social media to urge Strange New Worlds to tell more Erica stories. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 3 promises more LT Erica Ortegas. Strange New Worlds Season 3 kicks off with Erica and some of her Enterprise crewmates kidnapped by the Gorn. Considering how one of Ortegas' wishes was to take a break from the Enterprise's bridge and join a landing party mission, her Gorn abduction becomes a nightmare scenario for Erica. However, that's just a hint of what's to come next for LT. Erica Ortegas in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, one of the pivotal women spotlighted in Nana Visitor's Star Trek: Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek. The Star Trek franchise has long been a beacon of diversity, innovation, and thought-provoking science fiction. Since its inception in the 1960s, the series has boldly gone where few others have, showcasing a future that strives for inclusion and progress. However, despite its forward-thinking nature, one of the franchise's enduring gaps has been the representation of characters like LT Erica Ortegas from Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. According to a star from Deep Space Nine, DS9, Ortegas represents a much-needed character type that has been missing from the Star Trek universe for decades. When Star Trek debuted in 1966, it was groundbreaking for its time. The original series TOS featured characters from a variety of backgrounds, such as Lieutenant Uhura, played by Nichelle Nichols, one of the first prominent black women in a leading television role, and Hikaru Sulu, portrayed by George Takei, a Japanese American actor in a period when Asians were often marginalized in American media. These characters, along with the utopian vision of the future presented by the United Federation of Planets, symbolized hope for a more unified and egalitarian tomorrow. However, as diverse as the original crew of the USS Enterprise was, it was still very much a product of its time, reflecting some of the limitations of 1960s television. Fast forward to today, and Star Trek has continued to evolve. Each new series brought its own flavor and introduced new types of characters, from the multifaceted Deep Space Nine to the action-oriented Star Trek: Discovery. Yet LT Erica Ortegas from Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has struck a particularly unique chord with audiences and critics alike. Ortegas, played by Melissa Navia, is the ship's pilot and has quickly become a fan favorite for her no-nonsense attitude, sharp wit, and strong sense of loyalty. She embodies a confident, modern hero who feels authentic and relatable, marking a significant step in the franchise's continuing journey toward more authentic representation. The DS9 actor who weighed in on the importance of Ortegas is none other than Terry Farrell, who played Yajia Dax, one of the most beloved and complex characters from Deep Space Nine. In a recent interview, Farrell noted that the inclusion of a character like Ortegas feels like the culmination of what Star Trek has always aimed to achieve, but hadn't quite captured in the same way before. Ortegas brings a sense of immediacy and modernity to the bridge, while also breaking the mold of what a Starfleet officer should be. She's relatable in ways that previous Starfleet characters often weren't, bringing a grounded human perspective to the optimistic, sometimes almost utopian world of Star Trek. Farrell's own role as Yajia Dax was itself a breakthrough in representation. As a Trill, Dax was a symbiont that had lived multiple lifetimes in different bodies, giving her a unique perspective on gender and identity. Yajia's open-minded approach to relationships, including her exploration of same-sex love, was one of the earliest examples of LGBTQ+ representation in Star Trek. In many ways, Farrell paved the way for more inclusive storytelling in the franchise, and she sees Ortegas as a continuation of that legacy. Ortegas' personality is another aspect that has set her apart from previous characters. She is unapologetically bold, funny, and down-to-earth, making her one of the most accessible characters in Strange New Worlds. This type of representation where characters are not only diverse in background, but also in personality, adds another layer of richness to the Star Trek universe. Ortegas feels like someone who could easily exist in today's world, but who is just as comfortable in the far-flung future.